Tonight, breaking news, Alec Baldwin breaking his silence after that deadly shooting on the set of his new movie. The actor saying, quote, "My heart is broken." He fired a prop gun, killing cinematographer Halyna Hutchins and injuring the film's director. NBC News just learning before the deadly incident, several crew members had walked off the set over safety concerns, including multiple misfires of prop guns. So how did this happen? Also tonight, Pfizer saying its COVID-19 vaccine is more than 90% effective in children ages 5 to 11. The shots could be approved as early as next week. So will children be fully vaccinated for the holidays? Brian Laundrie's final moments, his family's attorney joining Top Story, detailing the days surrounding Gabby Petito's disappearance, telling me Laundrie was very upset when he left for a Florida nature reserve where his remains were later discovered. Plus, chaos in Haiti, a group of American missionaries held captive for nearly a week. The kidnappers now threatening to kill them if their $17 million ransom is not met, as violence erupts across the country. Tourists killed in TULUM, the shocking images tonight from one of Mexico's most popular destinations after a shootout between drug dealers. Tourists caught in the crossfire, what we're learning about the 2 women killed. And roller coaster rescue, the ride getting stuck nearly 140 feet in the air. Top Story starts right now. And good evening, I'm Tom Llamas. We begin Top Story tonight with that deadly shooting on the set of Alec Baldwin's new film. The actor firing a prop gun on the set of Rust in New Mexico, killing a cinematographer and injuring the director. Baldwin breaking his silence today, saying, quote, "My heart is broken," adding that he is cooperating with authorities. But tonight, a source confirming to NBC News that crew members had walked off the set prior to the accident, citing safety concerns, including multiple misfires of prop guns. And we're also learning more about the victim, Halyna Hutchins, the Ukrainian-born director of photography, remembered as a rising star in the industry, credited in dozens of movies and TV shows. Police now launching an investigation into what went wrong. Let's get right to Miguel Almaguer, who leads us off tonight from L.A.
Shortly after the fatal shooting, a distressed Alec Baldwin outside the sheriff's department in Santa Fe. Investigators say the veteran actor fired a prop gun on his New Mexico movie set Thursday, killing the film's director of photography and seriously injuring the director.
So was it loaded with a real bullet or one?
I cannot tell you that.
Okay.
We have 2 entries.
But just hours before the deadly shooting on the set of Rust, an independent movie in which Baldwin is also one of the producers, NBC News has learned several crew members walked off the set over safety concerns, including multiple previous misfires of the prop gun, according to a source familiar with the matter. Baldwin, who's 63, expressing remorse. There are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Halyna Hutchins, a wife, mother, and deeply admired colleague of ours. I'm fully cooperating with the police investigation to address how this tragedy occurred.
One of the things about firearms on set that people don't realize is that even if it's set up to fire blanks, federally, it's still a real gun.
Larry Zanoff, a Hollywood weapons expert who was not on the set of Rust, says when strict safety guidelines are followed, accidents should never happen. The industry's safety bulletin spells out, blanks can kill. Treat all firearms as though they're loaded. Live ammunition is never to be used. No one shall be issued a firearm until he or she is trained. Tonight, it's still unclear if Hutchins was killed by a blank, live round, or other projectile.
The way we handle firearms and the blank ammunition on set, that seems very difficult to imagine how a blank would do that.
Gentlemen. In 1993, after Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee, was killed in a filming accident involving a prop gun, industry safety measures tightened.
To my mind, this accident happens because somebody missed some check that they should have done.
Hutchins, who was 42 and posted photos of horseback riding near the set, was quickly becoming a Hollywood star. Rust actress Frances Fisher posting this tribute, saying, "Rest in paradise, dear Helena." Tonight, a tragic accident, and now mounting questions as to how something like this could ever happen.
All right, Miguel Almaguer joins us now live. Miguel, we've heard from Baldwin, but what is the production company in charge of making the movie saying now?
Well, Tom, the production company released a statement that did not include a lot of details, but they said they were unaware of any safety concerns that had been raised on that set. They also added that they are fully cooperating with investigators. Tom?
All right, Miguel Almaguer leading us off with that new reporting tonight. Miguel, thank you. This deadly movie set shooting involving Alec Baldwin has raised new questions about how a stunt like this could go so wrong. To help us understand, Kevin Williams joins Top Story tonight. He's the prop department supervisor at the UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television. Kevin, thanks for joining us. As we just heard there in Miguel's report, this was a prop gun. Now, we want to be clear, you were not involved with this set or this production, but you have a prop gun with you. Show us some of the safety precautions on those guns, and what are some of the other safety measures that should have been taken on set?
Well, first off, I can point out to you, in regard to the piece that I have here, this is a prop revolver. It is fabricated with the specific intent to only be able to fire a blank munition. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but if you can look here where I'm trying to make sure I'm not pointing this towards my face, this is completely blocked here where the barrel of the gun is. There's also a small opening at the front of the barrel, but a little deeper in, about half an inch down, you do have another full blockage point. So there's no projectile that's going to be coming out of here. Beyond that, in the cylinder of the weapon, you also have blocking mechanisms and just enough space for explosive venting that are going to come from the blank charge when it's discharged.
So are you saying that in prop guns, live rounds can't be put in?
Generally speaking, if it is manufactured as a prop weapon, there are certain companies that do nothing but manufacture blank firing weapons for the purpose of reenactments and film productions. And in those circumstances, the guns are made so that you cannot chamber a live round. They're made with a different caliber. So, you might have like an 8mm blank as opposed to a 9mm bullet. So it's, if you're using the right things, the rare circumstance where it might not be that is that you have a period film such as Rust, and again, speculating here, you might have had vintage firearms brought to the set that were meant to only fire blanks, and a live round was inadvertently loaded into the gun. But again, it all kind of goes back to who brought it to set. How did they come around? Did they rent it from a licensed prop house here in Los Angeles, or did they hire locally? You need to look at working conditions too. It's important to bring up the topic of the IATSE discussions right now and working conditions and long hours. And if you have fatigued cast and crew, it leads to mistakes and oversights that lead to tragedies like this.
You've been in this industry for more than 20 years, and you sort of talked about some possible theories here. And again, this news is all so fresh. But if a vintage piece, a vintage firearm were brought to set, if something like that was to be used, is that something that is accepted in the industry? And if so, how do you handle those types of guns?
It's hard to say because it's case by case based on the needs of the production. But I do know that in my experiences with firearms on sets, both in live performances as well as with film, even if we do need something that is period specific, it's usually altered in such a way so that you can't load that live round, as I had mentioned before. But really, it's hard to say when you're on location like this and who you're able to hire, which just opens up a deeper discussion as to standards and practices to support the crews.
When this news first broke, so many of us thought about Brandon Lee, who died on a shoot in 1993. He was, of course, the son of Bruce Lee. People have called for ditching prop guns altogether and possibly using computer imaging. Is that even possible, and is that a solution?
I can't speak with any authority across the board, but I do know that After Effects is, it's a very rudimentary but very robust editing tool, and you can add those effects in post-production quite easily. Again, it's all up to the creative prerogative of the director or maybe even the producer to say this is how they want to achieve it, capture it on camera for a more visceral moment. But then that starts to push the boundaries of what your crew is comfortable doing. And the way this industry is structured, we in this, being on the crew, we don't always feel we have the agency to speak up in defense of these practices that may be questionable.
It's a good point. Kevin Williams from the UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television, we thank you for your thoughts tonight. This is also new tonight. Pfizer says its vaccine is more than 90% effective in kids ages 5 to 11 as the FDA considers expanding use to that age group. And it comes as the CDC gives the green light to all booster shots in the U.S. NBC's Tom Costello has those details.
It's a critical development for the 28 million 5 to 11-year-olds potentially eligible for a COVID vaccine. Pfizer today said its vaccine is nearly 91% effective in preventing symptomatic COVID for that age group. Now the FDA will meet next week to consider giving its approval.
Plenty of children get seriously ill if you go to pediatric hospitals throughout the country. So although the incidence of severe disease is less, we still want to protect the children.
Meanwhile, the CDC has now officially cleared all vaccine booster shots. Here's what you need to know. If you received your second Moderna or Pfizer vaccine more than 6 months ago, you're eligible for a booster if you're at least 65 years old, or you live in a long-term care facility, or you have underlying medical conditions, or you live or work in a high-risk location. Pregnant women are also encouraged to get a booster. If you're among the 15 million Americans who received the one-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and it's been at least 2 months, you can get a booster right now regardless of your age. And anyone can get a different booster than their original vaccine dose.
There may be some people who might prefer another vaccine over the one that they received, and the current CDC recommendations now make that possible.
In Chicago, 28-year-old Sean Paul originally got the J&J vaccine. He's now hoping for even more protection.
I am interested in getting one of the other shots if possible, and if that's what the CDC recommends as well, then I'll definitely do that.
In D.C., 76-year-old Roger Griggs works in a community clinic, putting him at increased risk for breakthrough COVID. He wants another Moderna dose.
I want to try to help protect my family and my grandkids and my co-workers and myself from this deadly virus.
As this vaccine starts to wane, we want to make sure that there's not another spike of COVID in our communities.
Boosting immunity as the country enters its third COVID winter.
Our third COVID winter, that's actually hard to even imagine. Tom Costello joins us now. Tom, for those who did get the J&J vaccine, what do the experts say about another J&J booster versus a Moderna or Pfizer booster?
There's a lot of evidence that a Moderna or a Pfizer booster for those J&J vaccine recipients would give them a dramatic increase in antibody protection. And in fact, if you decide I had the J&J vaccine, I want to stick with it, the evidence suggests that you will go from 72% protection to 94% protection. Dr. Fauci has said recently, you know, that J&J vaccine should have been a 2-dose regimen to begin with. So now a second dose, a booster, would probably get people up to where Pfizer and Moderna are in terms of protection. But if you want to diversify, all the evidence suggests that diversifying your vaccine on the booster side will really up your level of protection dramatically.
Tom Costello for us. Tom, thank you. We now turn to the new developments in the Gabby Petito case. Authorities found what they described as a partial skull in a swampy reserve and determined it to be Laundrie's. But one of the challenges they face now, finding the cause of death. Here's NBC's Sam Brock.
Tonight, there are questions about Brian Laundrie's cause of death. Law enforcement has packed up its search tools and rolled out of a Florida park, where just a day earlier, the FBI declared remains found submerged in water to be Laundrie's. The 5-week manhunt ending with a second death after his fiancée Gabby Petito was found in late September strangled. Laundrie had been missing for weeks. The family attorney speaking to Tom just after his remains were identified.
Did your clients know their son, Brian Laundrie, was going to disappear when he left the house that day?
No, they did not. What I can tell you is that Brian was very upset when he left, and Chris conveyed to me several times that, you know, he wished he didn't let him go, but he couldn't stop him. So this has been a painful saga for them since September 13th. It's been a long haul, but Brian is a grown man, young man, 22 years old. He wanted to walk out the door. He was entitled to walk out the door.
Determining that cause of death may prove to be a challenge for the forensics team. They recovered a partial skull from this swampy reserve, but it's not clear what else.
Is a partial skull enough to determine cause of death?
It is not, unless there is some sort of traumatic injury. And by that, I mean traumatic injury. If he shot himself, then the skull would literally show an entrance wound and an exit wound.
The decomposition of what they did find after possibly weeks underwater is a roadblock, along with wildlife populating the area.
Literally, the pigs run rampant and they will eat anything that's there. The gators will take their piece of the flesh. You got snakes.
How Laundrie died is not the only massive question mark still circling this case. There's also the matter of how Laundrie's parents flagged investigators to the remains upon entering the park after 5 weeks of exhaustive searching turned up nothing.
What do you say to all those people out there who say this is really a strange coincidence? Both parents go out, mother and father, and then suddenly these big clues turn up, including what we now know are the remains of Brian Laundrie.
This area was waist deep in water. I think every searcher who was out there will attest to that. And yet still, John Q. Public can't get it in their head that these areas were inaccessible and the items that were located perhaps couldn't be seen.
The FBI and local law enforcement once again turning down any request for more information.
Sam Brock joins us now from outside the Laundrie's family home there in Northport, Florida. Sam, a lot of discussion about what was found in that nature preserve, including the backpack and possibly a notebook and that dry bag. Do we know anything about the notebook? And I understand you have some new reporting on how police would be able to sort of glean clues from it.
The notebook could be key, Tom. I'm told by experts in forensics it may be sitting in water for weeks, but even so, it would go off to an FBI crime lab. They would dry it off page by page and use micro lenses to see what was written inside of it. And after a potential crime of rage like this one, it may be the best chance we have of knowing what was inside Brian Laundrie's head during this entire ordeal. Tom?
Sam Brock for us. Sam, we thank you for that. We want to head to Haiti now. The situation for 17 hostages there growing more dire by the day. The gang leader holding the missionaries captive for nearly a week, threatening to shoot them all if his demands aren't met. The kidnapping is just one of many crises now facing the country as violence has exploded completely out of control. NBC News correspondent Gabe Gutierrez reports.
It's been nearly a week since the missionaries were kidnapped, and tonight there's no official word on whether a Haitian gang leader has followed through on his threat to kill them if his demands aren't met. This video of the ringleader of the 400 Mowozo gang was shared widely on social media yesterday. He vowed to shoot the 17 missionaries, most of them American. Authorities say the gang has demanded $1 million for each captive. A senior security official in the region telling the New York Times that Christian Aid Ministries is working to collect the ransom money and that none of the hostages have been harmed. In Haiti today, frustration and anger spilling out onto the streets.
Right now, they have to do something about it. I don't know what they're going to do about it, but they have to do something about it right now.
Crowds gathering day after day, angered by government inaction and the country's crippling fuel shortage. I spent the night at this gas station. Now they tell us to go home, this taxi driver says. Adding to the instability, an alarming rise in abductions. UNICEF reporting 71 women and 30 children have been kidnapped in Haiti in the first 8 months of 2021, already surpassing the numbers for all of 2020. And those citywide demonstrations are creating major roadblocks for humanitarian organizations working to deliver aid. We spoke with the director of Food for the Poor virtually. The road to his compound completely closed off. Have you ever seen something like this before?
This one cannot be compared to nothing else. This is the worst crisis we have been going through. Almost 120 people have been kidnapped. The crisis we are facing, food insecurity. I've never seen so many people going to bed without getting nothing to eat. It's the worst we have seen so far.
And Gabe Gutierrez is just back from Haiti. He joins us now here on set on Top Story. Gabe, who's in charge of Haiti right now?
Well, right now, Tom, the gangs are in charge. The national police chief just resigned, and many people in that country feel that they really can't get to places, that there are these constant protests, and really that the gangs are operating with impunity because the national police just can't get to them.
The last 40 to 50 years have been very hard on Haiti, but you're hearing this could be be the worst period ever?
Yeah, some of the people we've been talking to say that this has the potential to get even worse than, say in the 90s after the overthrow of Jean-Bertrand Aristide. They fear that this could continue to get worse. Even when we were there on the ground, I mean, in a relatively nice part of town, there were multiple fires burning at any one time. You couldn't get around the city very easily. It's estimated that half of Port-au-Prince right now is under the control of these gangs. And Tom, one of the big questions is what role will the U.S. have moving forward here? The State Department says that it's allocated another $15 million to help build up the national police.
Gabe Gutierrez back from Haiti. We are glad you're safe. All right, to Washington tonight in the battle over President Biden's agenda, the details of what's included in the multi-trillion-dollar spending bill still in flux as Democrats try to appeal to both wings of the party. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander, he has the latest.
Tonight, after months of infighting, top Democrats insist they're nearing a deal on President Biden's multi-trillion-dollar spending plans. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi expressing optimism after a morning meeting with the president.
It's exciting because whatever it is, it's going to be bigger than anything we've ever done for the American people.
Democrats say the House will aim to vote on the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the president's larger social policy package next week.
Compromise become a dirty word, but it's bipartisanship and compromise still has to be possible.
President Biden in a CNN town hall revealing key parts of his signature plan are off the table to satisfy holdouts within his party, abandoning tuition-free community college, shrinking paid parental leave from 12 weeks to 4, and likely scrapping a cornerstone clean energy program that's opposed by West Virginia's Joe Manchin. And to accommodate another moderate, Kyrsten Sinema, who refuses to back a tax hike on corporations, Democrats are now scrambling to find other ways to pay for their plan. All of it highlighting the challenges of an evenly divided Senate.
You have 50 Democrats. Every one is a president. Every single one.
The president also raising eyebrows, saying he's considering deploying the National Guard to help ease the overwhelmed U.S. supply chain.
Absolutely, positively. I will do that.
In fact, that's a decision that would be up to governors. And the president's drawing criticism for this answer about Americans struggling with rising gas prices that just hit a 7-year high, admitting he does not have an immediate solution.
I must tell you, I don't have a near-term answer.
Peter Alexander joins us now from the White House. Peter, you just mentioned there's some of the key items that have been cut from the bill. For our viewers at home, what's still in at this point?
Yeah, so clearly, Tom, this is a work in progress at this point. But among the key items likely to be in a final Democratic deal, universal pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds, and a 1-year extension of that child tax credit. Those are the payments that started last spring, a monthly payment of $300 per child for kids under 6, $250 for kids up to 17 years old. The president had wanted it extended more than a year, as well as an increase to Pell Grants for low-income college students. Tom, they gave financial aid to nearly 7 million students last year. They hope to expand that going forward. Tom?
Peter Alexander at the White House tonight for Top Story. Peter, we thank you. Queen Elizabeth back at Windsor Castle after spending Wednesday night in the hospital. The palace attributed the visit to, quote, preliminary investigations. Keir Simmons joins us now from London. And Keir, a lot of folks back here in America are going to be wondering, what does that phrase mean? And what can you tell us about the Queen's condition?
That's a great question, Tom. It is a bit of a mystery. I and others are told by palace officials that it is not COVID, but as you say, she was in the hospital for preliminary investigations, which suggests there might have to be more investigations, perhaps even some kind of treatment, and we don't know for what. Now, look, the palace is always very careful to protect the Queen's privacy, but on the other hand, of course, Tom, she is the monarch, and there's inevitably a tension there. People are wondering, what is wrong with the Queen?
Yeah, and, of course, the world is watching because of her age, and they care so much about the Queen. But people over there, I'm understanding in the UK, are also frustrated with the palace keeping this information private.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. The media here, the British media, who you know can be pretty vociferous, are pretty fed up right now because at first we were told that she had cancelled a trip to Northern Ireland, that she needed to rest. And then this news that she'd been to the hospital came in a newspaper leak. The palace, many observers, many royal reporters felt hadn't been completely straight with people. In fact, one long-time royal reporter accused the palace of spreading rumours. So a real concerned. They're back to this tension again between the Queen's privacy and the fact that she is the monarch. Again, the media feel that if there is going to be more investigations, for example, that they should be told exactly what's happening, not having come out in a newspaper leak.
Keir Simmons from London tonight. Keir, thank you. We turn to the economy now in our Money Talk segment. Today on Wall Street, a blank check company, or SPAC, which raises money for an investment project, had trading halted multiple times after its shares jumped more than 100% in value and 400% for the week, all because of its ties to former President Donald Trump. Here to explain it all is NBC News senior business correspondent Stephanie Ruhle for us on a Friday here on Top Story. So, Steph, talk to us a little bit about what a SPAC is and what this one is trying to do.
Well, you said it at the start. It's a blank check company. This one, Digital World Acquisition Company, was put together soon after the 2020 election, after Donald Trump lost. And the way these companies work, as you said, they're blank check companies. Investors put money in, and then this company looks for strategic investments to buy, to partner with, and then eventually they go public. Well, 2 nights ago, we learned that this company, Digital World Acquisition Company, announced that they plan to form a merger with Trump's new business, Trump Media and Technology, with Donald Trump announcing that they would be creating Truth, a Truth Social, what he plans to be a competitor to Facebook or Twitter, which, as you know, banned Donald Trump in the last year. Well, this announcement sent DWAC, that's the ticker, soaring 400% yesterday, over 1,700% today. And what's extraordinary is the company doesn't even exist yet. There are no employees. There are no plans beyond a pitch book that really shows the kind of Twitter and social media following Donald Trump used to have, with the promise that he's going to recreate that on a new platform.
So let's talk about the investors. Earlier this week, the stock was worth about $10 a share. Then earlier today, it spiked at more than $160 a share. And now it's around or just below $100. Who's buying here? Are these Trump true believers?
Well, thus far, it seems that way. Where we've seen the biggest frenzy is in Reddit and StockTwits chat rooms. Remember, you and I have talked about these things before. These are the meme stocks, GameStop, AMC. In the last year, we have seen these novice investors now become trading enthusiasts using platforms like Robinhood, really with this mission and this mindset to kind of rock the establishment, take down the man, in their mind, Wall Street. And now you're seeing, you know, a lot of Trump supporters have that same spirit. So in those exact same chat rooms where we see people trading GameStop, people trading things like AMC, that's who's getting behind this new DWAC with Trump behind it. And the volume we're seeing is huge. That means the amount that's trading. And that's one of the reasons you saw stock halted today and yesterday.
So I guess the big question is, and I don't even know if we know this yet, is the former president Donald Trump involved at all? And is he making money off this?
He's absolutely involved. This plan for this merger is going to be his media company. If you said, Stephanie, how much specifically does he own? How much will he make? We don't know. And you have to remember, all of this is on paper. He hasn't monetized anything yet. And these are just plans. The SEC hasn't reviewed this yet. None of this is official. All of this is a promise. So right now, the only ones who have made money, who can sell, are those who initially invested in that SPAC. But with Donald Trump's name all over it, he certainly stands to make a lot of money. And Anthony Scaramucci, investor and former Trump supporter, said he hopes to see Donald Trump make a ton of money on this, and that potentially would dissuade him from running again.
Oh, the mooch. Okay, that's good to know. But on that last point you just mentioned, you said the people that initially got in, it can be good for them. But what about people that are watching this that may think, hey, I want to invest in this? These kind of SPAC investments can be risky for the average investor, correct?
They are high risk. You always have to know if you're getting into anything that's volatile. Listen, anyone can make the argument, hey, Donald Trump had a huge following. Let me get in now. This is going to be huge. We don't know that. As I said, the SEC hasn't reviewed it yet. We haven't seen the company go public. This is absolutely a risky investment. So if you go in, you got to be ready to lose.
Steph Rule for us. Steph, thank you. Still ahead tonight, the home explosion rocking a neighborhood. Video just in showing the home erupting into a fireball. Several people injured, including a firefighter. The details just coming in. Plus, the battle over that restrictive abortion law in Texas. The decision just in from the Supreme Court. And the shootout in Tulum, Mexico. Tourists killed after they became caught in the crossfire. Priscilla Thompson joins Top Story tonight with what the State Department wants Americans to know if they plan to travel to the area. You're watching Top Story. We're just getting started. Back now with a dream trip turning into a nightmare. A group of tourists in Tulum, Mexico. Police say were caught in a shootout between drug dealers. At least 2 of them were killed. Priscilla Thompson has more.
Images of sunny skies and sandy beaches shattered in Tulum, Mexico, after 2 tourists were caught in the crossfire of a shootout earlier this week. Authorities say 2 women are now dead, one from Germany, the other from India. Local reports say one of the women was a travel blogger. Video captured moments after the shooting appears to show a woman lying on the ground as others gather around to help. Shortly after, an ambulance arrives. One woman died at the scene, the other in the hospital. Officials say 3 other tourists were also injured. The shooting happened Wednesday night just off the main strip in the resort town. According to the Quintana Roo State Prosecutor's Office, a fight broke out between 2 street-level drug-dealing groups. One suspect was wounded at the scene and later arrested, officials say. The state of Quintana Roo, home to tourist destinations like Tulum, Playa del Carmen, and Cancun, has seen an increase in violent shootouts over the past few years as rival cartels fight for control of the area. In June, 2 men were shot to death and an American tourist injured on the beach in Tulum. In 2017, 3 foreigners and 2 Mexicans were killed at a music festival in Playa del Carmen. The violence, a dark cloud over the state's crystal clear waters that attract millions each year.
And Priscilla joins us now on set. So, Priscilla, if you're going to Cancun, Tulum, Playa del Carmen, the State Department now is saying, quote, exercise increased caution?
Right, and that means potentially staying at your resort location and not venturing into the community to have dinner or to do some type of other activity. And Germany, which lost one of its citizens and one of them died and 2 others were injured, is saying that people should exercise extreme caution. But an important piece of context here is that tourists are almost never the targets of this violence, but they are being caught in the crossfire of these low-level street drug deals that are occurring there.
Yeah, no, it's an important note. All right, thank you so much for that, Priscilla. We appreciate it. When we come back, the on-camera crash, the moment a car veered into oncoming traffic, and the warning tonight from police. And a wild story out of Colombia. Pablo Escobar's so-called cocaine hippos, now legally considered people. What's going on there? Those details and more coming up. All right, now to Top Story's news feed, and we begin with the home explosion in Indianapolis. Take a look at this. A home security camera capturing the moment the home burst into a fireball. 5 people, including a firefighter, rushed to the hospital with serious injuries. Authorities saying a fire pit recently installed directly above a gas line likely caused that explosion. The warning about distracted driving after a crash that was caught on camera in Nebraska. Dashcam, watch this footage showing that moment a driver veered across the center lane and hit an oncoming vehicle. Everyone involved is expected to be okay. Police citing the driver, who they say was not paying attention to the road when they lost control. The Supreme Court has refused to block that restrictive new abortion law in Texas for now. But the High Court has agreed to hear a challenge to the law in just 10 days. Justice Sonia Sotomayor again writing a scathing dissent saying, quote, the state's gambit has worked, adding the impact to keep the near total ban in place will be catastrophic. Texas clinics reporting an 80% drop in abortions since the law took effect. All right, hundreds of SkyWest flights were canceled for a second day in a row. The carrier operates flights for American, Delta, United, and Alaska. Long lines of frustrated passengers seen across the country. The company blaming internal technical issues. It comes as Southwest says their mass cancellations earlier this month cost them $75 million. Now we head to a college that's challenging the legacy. Amherst College in Massachusetts is ending legacy admissions, which favored entry to children of alumni. And not everyone is happy about it. Here's NBC's Zincle Esamwa.
The practice of legacy admissions gets a rejection letter from Amherst College.
It's been a little bit of a mixed response to the legacy change.
The elite Massachusetts school announcing Wednesday legacy applicants, those whose parents and grandparents are alumni, will no longer have preferential standing when they apply.
I had access to something called Dean's Day.
Julia's parents and grandfather attended Amherst.
I did sort of feel like it was odd that that was something that I had access to and that other students didn't have access to.
We owe it to the whole sphere of underrepresented young people to provide more opportunity.
President Martin, who was a low-income and first-generation student herself, says the change will make the admissions process more equitable. Amherst College joins others in ending preferential legacy admissions. But not every private college is giving the change a passing grade. Take Stanford, which in response to Amherst's announcement said to NBC it would maintain its, quote, holistic admissions policy. First-generation Amherst alum Natalie struggled with her transition to the school.
Knowing that your peers have had experiences that you haven't had, have attended these really rich, wealthy white gatherings that you haven't had, I think sort of keeping that legacy of legacy admissions around, I think it really just bears the mark of, I think, a lot of institutions' racist histories in the past.
The practice emerging in the 1920s amid an influx of immigrants and members of the Jewish community. But in 2021, the demographics in the country and the classroom are changing. In Amherst's newest class, 17% of freshmen are first-generation college students, and 50% are domestic students of color.
There have been a lot of initiatives around diversity and inclusion, and so removing legacy admissions feels like a very tangible step.
As legacy admissions end at one university, so a new chapter of acceptance begins for incoming college applicants.
All right, Zincle joins us now. So I have to ask, a lot of times with these alumni and these sort of legacy programs, it also leads to donations for the university. Are they worried now that alumni aren't going to donate as much?
The short answer, Tom, is no. I asked the university president that exact question. She said parents and alumni have said they don't give because they want their children to go. They give because they want other students to experience campus life. And when I was on campus, I saw both from alumni and current students excitement, both around this new policy, but also the university increasing investments in financial aid up to $71 million. Just another effort that's going to further level the playing field, Tom.
Yeah, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with admissions and donations as time goes on. Zincle, I also want to welcome you to Top Story and to NBC News. Great report and great to have you.
Thanks so much, Tom.
All right. Now to Top Story's Global Watch. More than 200 people are dead after massive flooding across India and Nepal. Dozens more injured and missing. Look at that. In Nepal, people caught in waist-deep floodwaters. Some survivors saying their government is not coming to their aid. And in India, landslides destroying entire homes. Rescue efforts now ongoing tonight in both countries. Thrill seekers in Japan getting a little more than they bargained for this afternoon. Take a look at this one. A power outage at an amusement park, leaving 35 people stranded near the top of a roller coaster, nearly 140 feet in the air. It's about 14, 15 stories there. The outage lasting more than 20 minutes. Staff workers helping riders climb down a staircase attached to the ride. No injuries, luckily, were reported. And a U.S. court has ruled Pablo Escobar's cocaine hippos, yes, hippopotamus, are legal people. They are the first non-human creatures to be legally considered people. It comes as activist groups try and prevent Colombia from killing them. 4 hippos brought to the country by Escobar were released into the wild after his death, but they have now multiplied, and experts say they are devastating the local ecosystem. The country now moving to sterilize them. All right. Coming up, one family search for answers after a Michigan woman was found dead in her home, bound with Christmas lights. What authorities uncovered years later. Andrea Canning from Dateline joins Top Story with a special preview that's coming up. Welcome back. If it's Friday night, you know that it's Dateline. And tonight, Andrea Canning looks at the Michigan woman found murdered in her home and her family's years-long quest for answers.
Egypt Covington was a local celebrity of sorts.
She had a light that shone. She would always lift people up.
So many people knew and loved her, and that can make a murder investigation complicated.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It was Egypt's boyfriend who made the grim discovery. His girlfriend killed by a single bullet to the head.
Your future's gone and everything you planned out in life is gone.
The dark news raced through Egypt's large family.
It just makes me feel like, why?
Why? And of course, who? As investigators would learn, the circle of people who knew and loved Egypt was enormous.
She just was bigger than life. So many people loved her. She had a ton of best friends. She had a ton of acquaintances.
It was her brother Dwayne who got Egypt into bartending. The siblings worked alongside each other.
So you two were side by side
we were
behind
side
the bar?
by side.
I love that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was fun. We'd have our little routines that we would do. We'd have some light shows, turn down the lights, have flaming bottles of liquor.
Wow. She was great behind the bar, but Egypt had bigger plans. Craft beer is a booming industry in Michigan, and Egypt landed a job with a distributor as a beer sales rep.
It was all coming together. She was taking off with the distribution. This was going to be her career, alongside with trying to get into the music business.
Egypt's talent and her gusto for life drew a lot of people to her.
Who is it? Could have been somebody that was infatuated with her at the bar and followed her. Is it a friend? Is it a family member? Who knows?
Dateline correspondent Andrea Canning joins us now. Andrea, we're definitely hooked after watching that clip. Tell us more about Egypt Covington and what you learned covering this case.
Well, Egypt Covington was just kind of a larger-than-life woman. She had so many friends and so many talents. Singing was her big passion, and she had won this local competition called Country Idol, and then she had actually tried out for The Voice as well a couple of times. So she was really trying to make it as a singer, and as you heard, her career was on the upswing with the craft beer business, and so her life was really cut short, at such a time when it was really taking off. She was found murdered in her home, and it was on a June night, and very oddly, her wrists were bound with Christmas lights, which is one of the details that really just kind of haunts me when I hear that.
Haunting and incredibly creepy. Without giving away the ending here, her family did wait years for answers. What was it like for them, and what is it like for them now that police believe they found her killer?
This was torturous for her family because they were very divided on who they believed did this, because there was not one man, not two men, but three men in her life that the police had to look at. And so just the investigation was very slow, and the police started to zero in on one man, which half the family thought didn't do it. So it really divided them, and it really tore apart her family. And also it also empowered them, though, to take action and to get the case moved to the state police out of the local police, which ended up being the best move because the state police were able to solve the crime.
Andrea Canning for us tonight on Top Story. Andrea, thank you. And you can catch tonight's Dateline at 9 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And when we come back, besides Dateline, and look at what else you can binge this weekend, Curb Your Enthusiasm back for a new season and the premiere of the star-studded sci-fi flick Dune, plus the songs already topping the charts. Do you know who Farruko is? You'll meet him. Stay with us. And back now with Binge-Worthy, our look at the best things to watch and listen to this weekend. It is Friday, so let's have some fun. On Top Story, we are taking care of you. And taking care of us tonight is Jeremy Parsons from People, the TV show. Welcome to Top Story, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. I will do my best to take care of you.
All right, we hope so. We're going to start with HBO, and we're going to jump right into Insecure. I think it's the 5th and final season.
5th and final season. We've got Issa Rae playing this hopeful, up-and-coming sort of community organizer. Her friend Molly, her ex Lauren, Lawrence. They're all kind of bouncing around LA. The cast really sad to say goodbye here, and they've talked about part of the magic of this series from their perspective is the representation of black people living in a black community just being real on a day-to-day basis, and then the stories and issues that emerge come from an authentic place as we get to know these characters and who they are. The big question season 5 will answer, will they be okay? Every single episode will have that question answered in some way.
The show has gotten so much buzz. I want to talk about another HBO show now, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Season 11.
Season 11.
Still going, Tom.
Larry David, we can't get enough. We do have a clip. Let's take a look right now.
Well, for coming. I want to make a toast to friendship.
Cheers.
Larry, you can't look me in the eye and toast.
What does it do?
You're saying, hello, I see you, I connect with you.
Hello, I see you, I acknowledge you, I connect with you.
I think you're rude.
You see how stupid it is?
That's actually so funny because my wife does that to me.
Right?
She always wants to toast and look in the eyes. That's actually really funny.
Thing, right?
This show is so great because so many of the jokes people just relate to.
They do, and in season 11, you know, they're kind of taking this post-pandemic theme, assuming that we've moved on from it. Everyone else has learned something about themselves. Guess what? Larry David has learned absolutely nothing. He's still annoyed by everything. People are annoyed by him. The producers and writers have said that the series will start this season with a bunch of different sort of scattered themes, but they will weave together as it moves on. Woody Harrelson, Kaylee Cuoco, Seth Rogen, some of the guest stars. The original cast is back as well. So
Vince Vaughn, I see, is there also.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. There's always a good lineup of those surprise sort of guest stars that they sprinkle through.
And you always want to see them back again. Such a great show. We look forward to that. Okay, now this is sort of like Back to the Future, right? We're talking Dune.
Isn't it wild?
2021, yeah.
If sweeping, epic, futuristic sci-fi creatures, supernatural planets, thousands of years in the future is your thing, then Dune is your thing. It's based on the huge, massive novel, 900-plus page novel from the 1960s. David Lynch did a movie in the 80s.
Yeah, of course.
Broadly panned. People didn't like it.
It was out there.
Yes, this time Denis Villeneuve is taking it on. He's the director of Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, and we have a clip of Dune right now. Let's take a look.
I've been having dreams about a girl on Arrakis. I don't know what it means.
Dreams make good stories, but everything important happens when we're awake. Hey, you. Put on some muscle?
I did?
No.
So, all-star cast, and a lot of people buzzing about the film.
A lot of people buzzing about it. Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya kind of headed up, and they've been doing press together. They have a great chemistry rapport, making headlines. They've become sort of fashion icons through the press that they've been doing for the movie. You can tell that they feel like it's sort of a life-changing moment in their career. No doubt going to be a huge moment as we look back, and probably a lot more to come in terms of sequels and other content from Dune. So
it'll be interesting since they're revisiting this, but I have a feeling it's going to be great.
This is also one that everyone agrees. See it on the big screen. If you're comfortable going to the theaters, do it. It's also on HBO Max.
Right. Okay, we want to talk about another film here that I'm really excited about, King Richard.
Yeah.
And we do have a clip also. King Richard, check this out.
I think you might just have the next Michael Jordan.
Oh, no, brother man. I got me the next, too.
All right, King Richard right there. We could sort of hear the music, too, and there's a setup for that, right?
Yeah, Be Alive, the song written by Beyonce for this. So Will Smith stars as Venus and Serena's father, Richard, and he got a call from Beyonce. She had seen the movie and was so inspired, she was like, I'm writing music for it. So you know it's going to hit emotionally. The trailer alone gives you chills. We were just talking about this. You feel like it really does give you the sense of it's going to have a hard-hitting impact as you watch through the triumphs, the challenges in, Venus and Serena becoming the icons that they now are.
And you said it too, it's a true story, which makes it even better.
We know how it's going to end, but we're going to still love watching them get there.
All right, finally we're going to talk about some more music here. Some reggaeton. I hope you're a big fan. Farruko, truth be told here, I'm a huge fan.
Ready for the album title?
Farruko, it's so good, it's so big, and even if you don't speak Spanish, you're going to love this. We do have a little bit of it right now. Let's take a listen. So you put Farruko on like once the party's like sort of everyone's relaxed, they're having a little bit of fun. Then you put a tune on like this, and the party goes nuts.
EDM club euphoria is how I hear it described.
It's a good mix between EDM and reggaeton, which is like the movement now.
That's right, and then sort of reggaeton pop and then hip hop. And he's even said, Farruko said that this is something he wanted to sample different sounds. You ready for the title of the album? Let me get it right. La 167, or as I would say, La 167.
There you go.
So
great translation.
It's really sad, isn't it? Anyway, so look, Icon and has topped the Billboard charts with this.
Yeah.
It's
from Puerto Rico, the pride of Puerto Rico, and just really all of his songs are so great.
And also the name of that album is because it's in honor of his hometown, and where his late grandfather owned a gas station. There's a lot of sentimentality here as well in terms of just why it's connected to him personally, and then the differences in the types of music and the mixes of the sounds are really incredible. And like you said, just get the party going.
And he's a guy who has collaborated with so many other reggaeton artists, and like he's definitely being pushed to the forefront now with this great album. So definitely check it out. Jeremy Parsons, man. I mean, you got to binge this guy. This is great. It's so entertaining.
Absolutely.
Tell our viewers where they can find you and where they can find your show.
People, the TV show. It's on all the People streaming platforms: Twitter, Facebook, and the People.com website, as well as stations throughout the country. Check us out.
All right, Jeremy Parsons, remember that name. And we want to thank you for watching Top Story all week. We had a great week, a big week. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Friday night. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. I will see you Monday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.